What's going on, fellas? I just wrapped up my morning kind of half of my coaching. About to go eat my second meal, head out to the garage and do some heavy high bar squats and snatch grip deadlifts, I believe is my main work for the day. But before I do that, I had a quick little idea for a video. Today, I wanted to kind of tell you guys about how I think you could benefit from gamifying your training. I was just talking to one of my clients about how this is something that I've almost been writing down and prescribing more and more often for my clients, and following this idea that you guys are I treat these videos as if you guys are my clients. I'm just giving you advice, things that I think might help you with your training. Take it or leave it. I figured this one would be worth talking about. So when we zoom out and look at our training, we have our kind of main performance metrics, as we talked about the other week. The things that we really care about are numbers. They're not just a means to an end. And pretty quickly in our training, let's say this is our squats, our benches, our deadlifts, our overheads, our push presses, our events, our snatches, our clean and jerks, whatever our main stuff is. I know a lot of you guys like to treat pull-ups as a primary performance metric. We have all of these things that we're kind of looking at as our strength endeavors, right? And then we've got some accessories that are meant to supplement that and bolster our result. We should still work hard on them, but they're kind of an adjunct to that primary training. I've always said if we've got a bench press workout, we should probably be doing enough bench pressing to be better at bench pressing the next time we come in, roughly, rather than relying on excessive amounts of accessory volume to push us forward if we also want to achieve technical mastery in the bench press. But that being said, those accessories are wildly helpful. Doing like hypertrophy focused work for the triceps, delts, and chest, if we go home and eat to fuel that growth, is going to make us a lot better bench presser over time. So we can't really understate the importance of these accessories, but we can kind of differentiate between our primary lifting, maybe close variations of our primary lifts, and then the more accessory stuff, whether that be focused on correcting a perceived muscle imbalance, just hypertrophying a muscle that's pretty important for the lift, highlighting certain technical skills within the main lift itself. Something like back work following bench press might be done with the specific intention of increasing our skill at that scapular depression retraction mechanic, right? So, there's different things we can do there. We could be working on different energy systems. There's kind of different nuance we can look into with those accessories, but they're all kind of under this general umbrella of accessories. So when we are looking at our main stuff, we train for a while, we kind of get past our 5x5 add weight every session kind of deal. Maybe you learn about daily undulating and you're like, okay, well, one day I have a linear progressing 3x3 and the other day I have a linear progressing 3x10. Congratulations, you've just invented yourself a program that's actually going to work okay. But eventually, again, we need to overlay a little bit more periodization on top of this. We need to come up with something that works for us. There's lots of different things that are going to work for us, but we need to have some kind of more intelligent structure where we're varying things with time. Now, on the other side of this, on the accessories, let's say the hypertrophy focused accessories, that periodization is a lot less important, right? Hypothetically, there are some marginal gains we could probably get from periodizing our bodybuilding work. But at the end of the day, let's say we're doing triceps after we bench press. We determine that for you, 3 sets is appropriate based on your recovery. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5, 6, 7, 8, however many sets of triceps. Realistically, what makes the biggest difference is that you are putting in sets of anywhere from 6 to 30 reps. Let's say it's 3 sets with a close or to failure proximity to failure, right? So we're either taking these sets to mechanical failure. If it's something like a rope press down, I think the systemic fatigue there is pretty negligible. As far as just being accurate with our RIR, we may as well just take those to 0 RIR. Maybe it's something that's a little bit more of a compound. We choose to train with 1 or 2 RIR. That's fine as well. But realistically, what matters over time is we had like a bunch of alternate realities, all you kind of running through a program. The biggest thing that's going to make the difference between alternate reality you that's seeing the best results and seeing less results due to these accessories is the fact that, like clockwork, you're busting your ass for those 3 sets. The periodization, the exact rep ranges, even to some degree, the exact exercises don't matter for this accessory. We're looking for extra elbow extension volume, taken close to failure to hypertrophy, the elbow extensors, right? Cool, we kind of get that. And that's kind of where gamifying your training can come in and hold a lot of value. It's because it basically just creates a system that's going to incentivize you to keep your foot on the pedal and reach The only thing that really matters to get the most out of those accessories, which is effort. I made a video a little while ago called The Base is Effort, right? That's the first and foremost thing that we need to make sure is there with an accountable, like an accountability week after week after week if we want to enjoy the benefits of the accessory. And gamifying your training can be a way to kind of incentivize yourself to always be bringing that effort. All I mean by gamifying your training is setting little objectives within this very broad framework. The broad framework is 3 to 30 reps. We could probably even go above 30 and still get plenty of benefits. And 3 sets. That's super open-ended. There's tons of little games we can play to try to beat ourselves every week. So let's say we take a fixed weight. We count our total reps across those 3 sets. We try to beat that week after week after week, right? And that's kind of the game we're playing. Once that game runs dry, we can either bump up the weight on the bar or the weight on the stack, or we could move to a different game. Maybe we say, okay, well, for the first set, I'm targeting a set of 30. And then for the second set, I'm targeting a set of 20 with a bit more weight, and then a set of 12. So we're kind of doing like a dynamic triple progression, right? In ramping sets, or maybe we do those in drop sets. Maybe we try doing rest intervals. Maybe we try doing extended sets with either like rest pause or partials. We can kind of create games to try to beat ourselves last week over and over and over. And then once that kind of runs dry, we can get away with rotating to a different game. And that's kind of the other benefit I wanted to talk about here is, like I said, kind of the main thing that's going to determine the guy who's getting the most out of accessories versus not is going to be that accountability for going hard, not necessarily the exact specifics of what the progression is. And that kind of opens us up for a cool little way to scratch that itch on our back that we always have of wanting to experiment constantly in our program and change things. If we are changing the overlaying periodization scheme and the overall progression scheme of our main lifts all the time, we're probably going to be stunting our progression in the gym. But if we're kind of playing different games on each of our accessories, we have all of these different games we're playing with a different accessory. On my laterals, I do one thing. On my rear delts, I do another thing. This thing runs dry. I can try this new idea I had because I wanted to incorporate time intervals. I wanted to just work for 30 seconds, rest for 30 seconds for 3 rounds. And that's my sets. I wanted to experiment with drop sets. I wanted to experiment with ramping sets. I wanted to experiment with like partner assisted reps. I wanted to do rest pauses, right? You've got all of these things that you can experiment with and kind of scratch that itch of keeping your training fun and trying different things while using that almost as to your benefit, as a way to keep you really highly invested, trying to beat yourself last week. And that way you're keeping a very high level of accountability for ultimately what matters for the accessory, which is most of all that our effort is there week after week after week. Because I think if I just say, 3 sets of 8 to 12, yeah, on paper, I say, okay, RP 9 to 10, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Cool, awesome. On paper, that absolutely falls within our big framework of 3 sets in that 6 to 30 rep range that are hard. Most people, after the 4th or 5th week, once they can no longer just linearly progress that accessory and beat their 3 sets of 8 to 12, they kind of mentally start to check out. And then a couple weeks after that, it's like, okay, well, they're kind of at RPE 6 for 2 of the sets and 1 hard set. And then eventually, people are just sandbagging their way through all of them. So that's where I think gamifying your training can come in. I've heard the Chinese weightlifting team kind of talk about that, using some of their variations that they use, because I know they use a hell of a lot of variations. And to some degree, we can apply this to our primary stuff. The problem is we have to be very careful about not being that guy that's changing things so often it stunts our progression. Because at the end of the day, I think being strong is cool and fun, and we should probably avoid that kind of fear of delayed gratification and being like, I gotta change stuff, It'd be awesome if we get to being very strong first before we kind of are indulging in these constant, like, gotta experiment kind of things. Thank you guys for watching my video. I appreciate you boys as always.